Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to Breakfast All Day. Matt, Christy, Alonso. It's been another week of things and news and stuff, and we're here to try and dig through all of it for you.
We will. We've got a bunch of film reviews. We've got like 5 film reviews. We will get to all of them. We've also got a ton of news today. So let's jump right in. The big thing is what happened yesterday, this gigantic and frankly, overwhelming Disney announcement.
Yeah.
Like it's too much stuff of what their content is going to be for the next several years. And I mean, it's all more of the same. It's all like spin-offs and sequels and reboots and whatnot. Various TV shows based on Star Wars characters like Obi-Wan, and there's going to be a Moana TV show and a Zootopia TV show, a Baymax TV show. There's going to be Sister Act 3, whether you want it or not. There's going to be a 3-minute a baby. There's like a reboot of 3-minute a baby starring Zac Efron. Is he Tom Selleck?
Well, he's the baby.
Jinx.
Any excuse to get into a diaper and nothing else will do for Zac Efron. He'll have to be shirtless at some point.
It'll be the most ripped baby anyone's ever seen.
For sure. Totally.
And then, other news like, Black Panther 2, they will not recast T'Challa, and the film will be dedicated to Chadwick Boseman, which is very smart, which, opens the door to, is Shuri going to be Black Panther? Anyway, that's coming out in 2022, I want to say. There's going to be a new Star Wars movie, Rogue Squadron, in 2023. It's just like an overwhelming amount of content, to the extent that who has enough time and eyeballs for all this? Are you guys excited about this?
I mean, I'm happy about that. Like, the Justin Simeon is doing this Lando Calrissian show, and that Patty Jenkins is doing Road Squadron. Just because, I like it when filmmakers I like get work, But as far as the content wise, I will take them on a case by case basis.
The Marvel nerd and Star Wars nerd in me loves this news. That being said, yes. Star Wars, we've especially seen what happens when you oversaturate the market, right? Part of the, I think, mythology of Star Wars, 30 years ago was that there was so little of it, right? There were like 3 movies and that's it, right? Sure, you had the holiday special and a couple of
the novels.
Well, but the novels actually didn't start for a while. Like the big push for the novels didn't start. Like you had a handful of novels, you had a handful of movies, counting those crazy Ewok adventures. And that was it. That's all you ever got. I think they are oversaturating the market. Here's the thing though. Let's keep this in mind. This was an investor meeting, right?
Yeah.
And so this was a lot of oh, hey, look at all the cool shit we're going to do. Now that doesn't necessarily mean, in fact, I bet good money that not all of it happens. I would bet that we maybe see at most 75% of it.
Right. It wasn't like it was D23.
Right.
It wasn't a con.
It's now look, there is a lot of stuff that's clearly in development that they're clearly filming or clearly developing. And that stuff we've kind of already known about. We knew about the Hawkeye piece. We knew about, just for the Marvel stuff, we knew the What If animated series was coming. We knew about Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, and obviously they're going to do another round of movies. The idea of the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, that looks fun. Sure, right? And a short animated series of I Am Groot. Okay, great. The Star Wars stuff, I think there's been rumors about a bunch of that stuff, is Boba Fett going to get his own show? Everybody wants an Ahsoka show. A little bit of it, I'll believe that they're doing those when I actually, hear about the cameras rolling, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, but from a stock perspective, it's all great news because those are the franchises that sell, or those are the IPs that sell for that studio.
And as has been pointed out, so it's sort of retroactively, now we know why Warner Brothers was in such a hopped up hurry to be all like HBO Max, with their stuff, because they knew this was down the road,
Right. And we have HBO Max news as well, because there has been more and more fallout from that news of the whole Warner Brothers slate on HBO Max in 2021. I mean, there's here and there, this content interests me. A Zootopia show could be really cool. One thing is too that's kind of funny is that there's going to be a Buzz Lightyear animated show, but Chris Evans is going to do the voice. Like, do you think Tim Allen's pissed?
But not about the toy, but about the real person that Buzz Lightyear is based on.
Oh my God.
It's
canon.
As I said on Twitter, it's Buzz Lightyear's monster. Yeah, that just seems like way too, like, does the series end with like, let's make a toy out of this? I mean, I don't.
Turns out his father is actually Darth Vader.
Who knows?
Not Zord.
Who the hell even knows?
It's craziness though. Yeah. So go ahead. Are we done with Disney? I was going to move on to HBO Max. So there has been a lot of fallout from the news last week that we talked about. Warner Brothers announcing that they're going to put their entire slate simultaneously on HBO Max and in theaters. So Christopher Nolan, first of all, was one of the earliest people to bitch about this and calling HBO Max the worst streaming service. And, complaining about how that's not how filmmakers want their work to be seen. It's like, may I introduce you to a thing called video stores.
Or Netflix, yeah.
This is not new. This is a thing that's been around for a while. The DGA sent a letter saying that the HBO Max deal is unacceptable. A lot of actors are very, very angry, saying that they were not consulted until the absolute last minute before, like 90 minutes prior to the announcement being made last week. Like they weren't told, and they're mad about that, which, I mean, we talked about this in a text thread, the three of us, but it's a multitude of reasons why they're mad. Like it's probably some back end money that they're missing out on from the theatrical run. But I think primarily it's just ego. I think it's control of their image and it's ego, and you cannot put a price tag on that.
So I didn't sign on to be in an HBO Max movie. I signed on to be in a Warner Brothers picture.
There's still that legacy for, I think, some filmmakers and some talent too about like, oh, television is not film, right? I mean, we used to see a lot of that, especially in the 80s and 90s, right? Like, remember what a big deal it was when Clooney made the jump into movies and he left ER, and he was like, oh, can he do it? Can he make that jump?
Right.
And people were like fascinated by that because people looked askance at TV. And I think we are somewhat there. I think some of the filmmakers are clearly looking at streaming that way. But here's the thing, like, Denis Villeneuve is upset. Nolan is upset. Like, look, if Nolan hadn't forced that, Tenet into theaters, who's to say? I'm not sure Warner Brothers would be making the decision that they made, right? They might have still been holding it out. I mean, not the drastic one for all of 2021. But here's the thing, like, here's why those guys are full of shit. Absolutely full of shit, right? Here's why. Because no less than one of our finest living filmmakers, Martin Scorsese, who has been making movies since before either of those guys were born, is gleefully over at Netflix, right? Because, so are guys, I mean, Steven Soderbergh is doing stuff.
Alfonso Cuarón.
Right? Like there's all kinds of people who have embraced.
Noah Baumbach.
Right. Or we look at, which we'll talk about later today, we look at the Small Axe series, right? I mean, that's Steve McQueen really like, fuck it, movies, TV, I don't care. I'm just going to do this. And that medium affords him the freedom, and those production companies afford him the freedom to do that kind of stuff. And I think that it's really, really beyond tone deaf. I think it's really like it is ego it's a very artistic ego, because for decades, theaters have struggled to get people into theaters.
Well, yeah, right? Exactly. Like the ship has sailed. The average American sees like 5 or 10 films in a theater. Five. The next level is maybe up to 10 in the theater over the course of a year. And these filmmakers are carrying on like, oh no, not to the small screen. Like, dude, more people watch your movie on a plane probably than see it, anywhere else. And so it's like, just say, I had a contract with Warner Brothers and I'm supposed to get X amount of the box office proceeds, and now you're screwing me out of that because no one's going to go see this in theaters.
I can't get an Oscar.
That's at least honest, but to pretend like, oh no, you shall not sully my work by making it available on the small screen. Dude, hate to break it to you. That's where almost everybody's seeing your movie anyway.
And it's going to be like that for at least the next year.
Yes.
You know, nothing's going back to normal for a
all
long
the more so during this current period in history. But
Right.
even before the pandemic,
before.
most people were watching this stuff on TV.
I just think you have to adapt. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there's some nobility in trying to maintain the integrity of the theatrical experience,
But
it's a both and. It's
Yeah.
no one's taking that away.
right.
I mean, look, when
That's the bad thing. Right. That's the part that's insane. That's crazy making. Is Nolan's acting like Nolan, the way Nolan talks, it's as if those movies are only available on streaming, right? And that they're showing in theaters, right?
or that it's
is he mad about box?
1998 and TVs are like this big and have one speaker. I mean, you know.
I mean, look at my TV. Look at my TV. Check out my TV. It's large.
I was recently. I just
the fuck
recently
your couch.
remembered exactly. I recently remembered that when Titanic was first released on VHS because it was 1998. You know, there were all these articles about how when Cameron, who is no slouch when it comes to being like, you know, persnickety about his final product, when he shot the film, he was thinking about this is what it's going to look like, you know, on the big screen and letterbox, but this is what it's going to look like when people watch it on television and it's not letterbox. And he designed shots that would work either way, in the same way that, like, I'm sure you know, Nolan and other people like, well, it's going to look like this in IMAX, and it's going to look like this in anamorphic or whatever. So it's like there's a way to be larger than this and to like to conceptualize your film so that it works in all of these different media. But to pretend that no one's going to watch your movie on the small screen, or that they're only going to see it there, like, it's 2020. Even before the pandemic, people weren't going to theaters all that much, so deal with it.
But it's also a little bit of like, you have to pay attention to the business. And, you know, if the audience, if what it takes to get money to make your artistic vision is such that it doesn't necessarily exist on the medium that you prefer, oh well. Like, I don't think Michelangelo really wanted to paint on that ceiling. I'm sure he would have much rather painted someplace else, but they were paying him good money to hike all the way up there and paint that damn ceiling. So
I only paint on walls.
right. Exactly.
If you want your films to only be seen in IMAX, then make like 25-minute films that are going to be shown at science centers, because beyond that, it's going to be out in a bunch of different places, and you either need to be on top of it or give up. I don't know what to tell you.
Yes. Anyway, we will continue following this because it's not going anywhere. We have Oscar producers. Fittingly, in this year of a pandemic, the director of Contagion is going to be producing the Oscars. So Steven Soderbergh, Stacey Sher, and Jesse Collins are your Oscar producers, and they've got
It'll
challenges
all be out of
before
sync,
them.
right?
You what?
It'll all be out of sync. Like they'll do Best Picture first, and then
Aren't they aren't they talking about trying to make it all like, we're not doing it virtually, we're not zooming, it's going to be people in the theater not wearing masks or whatever,
So they say, but who knows? Who knows if that's
I've been
gonna
saying for
actually
months
happen.
we need to bring back hoop skirts. That'll be the fashion of the day for
6
Oscars.
feet,
If everybody's
6
wearing
feet.
right, if everyone's got a 3-foot diameter hoop skirt, I guess 6 foot, right?
Other industry news, Taylor Swift just released another album last night.
Oh,
At midnight,
I hadn't even heard.
Yes, what did you do during the pandemic? Taylor Swift released 2 entire albums. This is a companion piece to Folklore. It's called Evermore. It just came out last night. She wrote a whole long Twitter thread explaining what it is that she, unlike the rest of us, she has not had writer's block, and she just kept writing, and the stories and the characters kept coming to her. So she kept going deeper into the forest to find out what would happen to them. So there's another entire Taylor Swift album, and then there was a movie that came out that we didn't get to, but it was like a film companion piece to Folklore.
Yeah, on Disney Plus. Yeah, I have not had a chance.
Prolific, the young lady. What else? Oh, Howard Stern has re-signed for the next 5 years with Sirius XM. The terms of the deal were not released, but he already was making $90 million a year.
Does SiriusXM have another marquee name? I mean, like, I know a lot of celebs have channels and stuff, but I mean, like, Howard Stern's kind of the one that, like, if anybody's if he's a subscriber magnet, they gotta sink their money into him because that's all they got.
Little Steven's Underground Garage.
I'm not saying
Lincoln.
they got plenty, but he's the one who's really like, making stuff happen.
Yes. Really excited about this, you guys. On Sunday night, I know we all have our DVRs set for A Recipe for Seduction.
I think
Mario Lopez is Colonel Sanders.
I think it's in the afternoon, actually. But look, I read the Colonel Sanders romance novel. So clearly somebody in KFC marketing has a sense of humor with this stuff.
Wait, there is a whole book?
Yeah, I sent you guys the cover.
I thought that was a joke. I thought that was like an Onion thing. I didn't realize that was real.
No, it's a real book. It's on Kindle. And the word chicken is never uttered. It's just like, it's very bizarre.
Well, we don't know that the C actually stands for chicken in KFC.
No, that's an urban legend.
It could just be KFC. There is so much. Okay, so here's the thing too that was kind of going around on Twitter all this week. So Alfred Molina is going to play Doc Ock. He's going to come back to the Doc Ock character from a whole other Spider-Verse into this current Spider-Man universe. And that spawned a whole running Twitter meme of people saying, so-and-so is returning to the beloved role of such and such.
Because that was after the news that they confirmed that Tobey Maguire and
Andrew Garfield
were going to show up, as was Kirsten Dunst and
Emma Stone.
Who was in Emma Stone, right? And so then the news broke about Alfred Molina. And so then, yes, I was like,
is this a Spider-Verse movie?
Right. It is a Spider-Verse movie. But then,
the meme was,
yeah. Kate Blanchett is reviving her role as Carol in Spider-Man.
No, I liked Fred Melamed is back in his beloved role of Cy Abelman from The Serious Man. That was good. Did you guys watch Olivia Jade on the Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith? Did you guys watch that?
I couldn't.
No, I heard about the fallout though.
Tell me the highlights.
I watched the whole thing, all 31 minutes of it. And I'd never seen this series before, but Jada Pinkett Smith and her mom, affectionately known as Gammy, and her daughter Willow, and they sit around a table and someone comes and talks to them. And the conversation, it was like a 2 or 3 minute conversation about the quandary they found themselves in when Olivia Jade approached them and wanted to come on their show. And that talk was actually more interesting than any intel they gleaned from this young woman herself. So for those of you who are not following along that closely, Olivia Jade is the daughter of Lori Loughlin and Massimo Giannulli, who are currently serving time for their very high profile role in the college admission scandal. Olivia Jade attended USC as supposedly a member of the rowing team, quote unquote. Anyway.
Never held an oar in her life.
No. And she, was like young and arrogant about it. Like, oh, I don't really even want to go to class. I just want to go to parties and football games. I mean, and truly, she didn't even need to go to college. She had a thriving career as an influencer. Hi, Dave. We see you. You're not very stealthy.
Christy says hi.
So Dave is walking behind Alonso. So she went on the show, and the interesting point they brought up was, why is she coming to us, to 3 Black women, to help her salvage her career and her reputation? And Gammy had lots of side eye, like, she'll be fine. Child, please, you'll be fine. And it's true. I mean, no matter what happened.
Did they ask her, was that like before they talked to her, or did they actually ask her that?
This is before she came out on stage, and they just had this whole, because Jada wanted to bring her on because she didn't want to do to white women what white women had done to her. That is, categorize her, put her in a box, misunderstand her. She wanted to be open-hearted and compassionate. And so she wanted to give this young woman the opportunity.
Did anything she say sounded like it was not coached by a PR firm?
No, I'm sure it totally was. But you know what? She was saying this was her first interview ever, and her heart was pounding out of her chest, and they didn't go easy on her. And she seemed sufficiently contrite, but she also acknowledged that she was very much in this bubble where she didn't recognize that what was happening was wrong because it was so prevalent. And I don't think she went to them because they are Black. I think she went to them because she viewed them as equals in terms of class. From a socioeconomic perspective, these are people who are her parents and her family's contemporaries in terms of wealth and status.
So celebrity on celebrity. Basically.
Right. And I think she figured it's a safe place because they're like me, and they're like,
They're not like journalists. They're
So it was fascinating though. I'm glad I watched it. I'm not sure she learned anything, but she said all the right things and seemed sufficiently contrite. So that was kind of interesting. We have lots of COVID news. Lots of people have COVID. There's always news right after we record. Rudy Giuliani had it.
Yep.
Jenna Ellis, another Trump attorney, had it. And again, Rudy's fucking traipsing around the country doing hearings to try to overturn the election results with no mask and like group pictures where
and
everyone's
farting,
smiling.
That's
farting.
Also, yeah.
Have you seen the video? I think we talked about this last week. The thing with the snot on the face, like he blew his nose into his handkerchief.
Ew, no.
We talk about this. He blew his nose. He's standing behind the Kraken lady on stage, Sidney Powell, and he blows his nose into his handkerchief, and then he examines it. And then he folds it open so the snot side of it is out. And then he wipes his face with it. Like he wipes his mouth and his nose and the sweat off his forehead with it. He's not the most sanitary guy.
And I hear a lot of people who were in that room in Michigan then tested positive as well. Like,
like the entire Arizona state legislature had to quarantine.
Exposure. Oy.
So there is that.
Ellen DeGeneres said that
Ellen has it
positive, and Korean director Kim Dae-duk just died.
As did Tiny Lister. Tiny Lister, Depot from the Friday movies, dead at 62. I mean, he had not necessarily been diagnosed, but he, according to his wife, had COVID symptoms. So all that is happening. We just had last night, you guys, in LA County, 12,800 new cases yesterday in LA County alone. Previously, the record was 10,500 cases, and that was just on Sunday. In LA County, 4,500 new cases in a day was the thing that was triggering certain shutdowns and certain new safety protocols. So we are well beyond that. All the Thanksgiving chickens are coming home to roost.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that was supposed to trigger shutdowns was capacity of less than 15% in ICUs. And we've been like dwelling in the like 12-13% area for some time now, apparently.
Yeah. So it's bad. So we were all home to enjoy
for the time being
for a long time. Did you guys see? Oh, also Stephanie Rule on MSNBC. She and her whole family are recovering from COVID. Did you guys see Matthew McConaughey went on the Russell Brand podcast? Did you guys see this? So basically, he said he's like a vehement centrist. He's saying, he's neither left nor right.
Change isn't possible.
No, he went on Russell Brand's podcast, says the far left is arrogant and condescending for condemning those who voted for Trump or for Brexit. And he doesn't like it. He thinks it's not going to bring people together. And so he's getting shit for that.
Well, good. He also went on Victoria Osteen's show on Sirius, which I didn't even know was a thing. So I don't even want to hear about what he's got to say, frankly.
Did you see Amanda Seyfried in an interview said that she turned down the role of Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy because she thought it was going to be like the first Marvel bomb?
Dope. Well,
right. She's like, what is this? There's like a talking raccoon in a tree. Who wants to see that? So, but then somebody, I can't recall who, a critic pointed out that in that period, because she didn't do that, she got to work with like David Fincher and who directed First Reform? Paul Schrader. Paul Schrader. Yeah. So she got to make some interesting choices in that regard.
To be clear, like to be fair, she's not totally wrong. Because when they first announced that they were doing Guardians of the Galaxy, it's like, really? Like that was a like third level title at best. So I it's hard to say.
And James Gunn's track record wasn't exactly like, for sure he'll nail it,
But it ended up being a huge hit. They both did. Bob Dylan sold his entire songwriting catalog to Universal Music. It is 600 plus songs. An estimated to be worth more than $300 million.
Who promptly set the masters on fire.
That is crazy. Did you guys see this? What happened to Tony Hsieh?
Who's Tony Hsieh?
The Zappos founder, the entrepreneur.
Oh, yes.
Who was found dead in a house fire in Connecticut. There's a really long and fascinating and very sad story that they did in Forbes about his final months and weeks and days, and how, he had this enormous heart and was hugely generous and just visionary and could inspire that in others, but also was very troubled and very lonely and increasingly was using a lot of nitrous and was surrounding himself with people who were much younger. He was 46 when he died. Was surrounding himself with friends in their 20s and basically said, quit your job. I will pay you double whatever you are making just to come and hang out with me. And so he was surrounded by enablers on the payroll in Park City. He was trying to develop in Park City the same kind of visionary development that he did in Las Vegas at the northern part of the strip in Las Vegas. He developed all of that, the container park and the cool arts district and all that. And so he wanted something like that in Park City. It was buying up land and properties and developing it, and was doing a lot of drugs. And I guess Jewel came and performed at his asking. They were friends, and she did this beautiful acoustic set and left after a day and wrote him this letter saying, you need help. You are an addict. You are surrounded by people who don't have your best interest at heart. And then soon after, he was dead. He was found dead. He had barricaded himself in a house in Connecticut and he'd been in this room for like 9 days.
Oh, man.
His body was found.
That's
So
sad.
very, very, very sad story. But a lot to learn from that. What else? We have a little bit of Trump news, and then I know we got to get going. We've got a lot to get to today. He's still fighting the election results,
Oy.
but as he tries to stay in the White House, he's planning some elaborate departure on Inauguration Day, where he's going to fly out in Marine one last flight at the exact time of the inauguration and try to steal attention away from it. Some extravagant, made for reality TV departure.
Well, I had previously heard that he was going to have a rally announcing his campaign for 2024
Probably.
during the inauguration.
Probably that too. But Melania, meanwhile, according to a big long story on CNN.com, Melania is packing her shit up and she's getting ready to go. She says, I just want to go home. She's already figuring out what pieces of art and stuff are going to go back to the Trump Tower home, which ones are going to go to Mar-a-Lago. She was quietly asking around to see if there's any kind of federal money for former first ladies.
Of which there is not.
There is not, unless your husband dies. And then you get like 20 grand a month, which she can't live
Right.
on.
No, 20 grand a year.
It's a whole year. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
But she does not give a fuck about the Christmas. We know that.
Yeah, the other thing I
Doesn't
heard
have
is that if Trump goes away for the holidays, he just won't come back.
That makes sense. But then you
Yeah.
know what? I was talking to one of my best girlfriends just before I got on here. She lives in now she lives in Palm Beach Gardens. But she was saying that in there's some kind of stipulation with Mar-a-Lago that you can't make it your year-round home. Like you can only live there for like 2 weeks out of the year. So, but I'm sure that like the locals won't enforce that.
I think we're about to see Trump place with no extradition policy, just as a tower facility. Just a thought.
Right.
I don't know.
I have two stories to tell you about men behaving badly, and then we will get on to marquees. There's some breaking news today in the New York Times that FKA Twigs is suing Shia LaBeouf because they have been in what she describes as a horribly abusive relationship for the past couple of years. They met on the set of Honey Boy, which she had a small role in,
Right.
and he, of course, wrote and co-stars in as his own dad. She describes horrific abuse and just not even realizing that it was abuse when she was in the middle of it. There's that, and then there's a big long story in the Hollywood Reporter about Johnny Depp and how he's radioactive and nobody
It's
can
a
hire him
doozy.
anymore. It's a doozy.
Oh, it's a doozy.
I didn't read it. What's the gist?
So in light of the recent loss of that libel case, which the judge basically said in England, like, yeah, we pretty much believe that you were hitting Amber Heard. There's another case coming up here, and it goes into like how he was doing this scorched earth policy in respect to her and just wanted everything to be shitty for her and pressured Warner Brothers to drop her from Aquaman. And it just, as you read it, it's like, like he's a huge fucking mess.
Oh dear.
And very immature, very petty. A lot of drugs.
It sounds like the angrier version of what happened to the Zappos guy, right? Like he's surrounded by sycophants and he's got money, and he's got this new agent or somebody like
lawyer who's taken over
some new
everything.
lawyer within his circle within the last few years who's just this epic piece of work.
He's also Julian Assange's lawyer. This guy. So also sad news, David L. Lander, Squiggy, Laverne and Shirley died this past week. He was 73. He had suffered from multiple sclerosis for a long time and was a very high profile face.
Yeah, wrote a book about it.
So hello. So Squiggy is no longer with us. Very sad. So
yeah, and I was very sad about Tiny Lister because I love him in The Fifth Element.
There you go. Matt, what marquees do you have for us?
I have a bunch. Oh, one last news story, real quick. AMC just announced this morning that they are likely to suspend operations at the end of January because they're out of money.
Nice.
So that bid to sell off all that stock to try to stay alive didn't work?
I guess not enough. Yeah, I mean, I think a studio will end up buying them now that the consent decree is ended.
Now that they can, yeah.
Now that they can.
Maybe Netflix will. They don't mind operating in debt.
All right, let me get the marquees out. Okay, we have a bunch this week. This first picture is from Agpit. He sent us a bunch, actually. This is the bilingual marquee on the Bytown Cinema in Ottawa, Ontario. Bytown was the original name for Ottawa, actually, and they changed it, I believe, in 1855. Renamed in 1855. I get that information from Agpet himself. So it says on one side, reopening undated but undisputed. Until then, keep safe. We miss you all. The other side is in French. Who wants to read this in French? Christine, our linguist.
Prenez soin de vous.
Réouverture inconnue mais inévitable.
What does that mean?
Same thing. Reopening undated but undisputed.
Oh, I see. I was trying not to read the English side.
It's reopening unknown but inevitable is the more literal translation.
Inévitable.
Prenez soin de vous. On a hâte de vous revoir.
Do you speak French, Alonso?
2 years of high school.
It's just, it's so close to Spanish.
And it's close to Spanish.
Okay, next up, this is changing the marquee on that same marquee. Ferme means closed or close. And then this is the owner of that, Bruce White. He's the owner of the cinema. They say that they're probably going to close by the end of the month and unlikely that they'll reopen. They may be closing permanently. Then also this is the Hamilton Theater in Hamilton, Ontario. A few different pictures. This one says, miss you, wear your mask. They remind us that there is no world without theater at their main theater door. This is a picture outside that kind of shows the whole building. And then another one that says, without theater, we are just a bunch of normies, according to the marquee. Agreed.
So I guess the Canadian government is not doing any better in terms of providing assistance to theaters who are suffering.
I guess not.
Ugh.
All right, so this is the Ohio Theater. Christine Rouleau sent these in. She writes us and tells us the Ohio Theater opened in 1928 as a Lowe's movie house, complete with built-in organ. These days, it's a venue for local and touring live performing arts. In the summer, they run a classic movie series with a live organist playing before and after every movie, as well as during intermission that they'll insert in the middle of a movie to cover costs by selling more concessions, she assumes. They also have a silent movie night where the organist accompanies the entire movie. It's a unique experience that she's happy to have in the city. The presenters say that it's the longest running classic film series in America, I guess continuously. This year they had a shortened schedule that played later in the summer with social distancing protocols in place, so the streak remains. Don't know the current status of in-person events at the venue. So this particular marquee says a standing ovation for those on the front line. You are the true stars of the show. This next picture is a quote from Les Mis on the marquee. It says, even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. There's another quote that says, "The time is always right to do what is right." That's a Martin Luther King quote.
And now we see the front of the theater boarded up, which it was not in earlier pictures.
And this theater is right across the street from the State House. Yeah, the front of the theater and the historical ticket booth were damaged during the time of the protest in June. Local artists were hired to paint murals on the boarded up facade.
Interesting.
This is a beautiful night shot.
Oh, wow.
Right? That shows the summer movie series. They were showing From Here to Eternity on one weekend. And then went back too far. The last picture was from Thanksgiving. We are thankful for your support. Have a happy, healthy Thanksgiving.
And now it's unboarded up, like
and now it's unboarded. So I guess they fixed it up. Next picture is from CJ Cordova. He says, here are a couple shots of Broovies Cinema Pub, currently closed in downtown Salt Lake City. Drink alcohol while you watch a movie, play pool, see special screenings. I don't know if you're playing pool while you're watching the movie, though. Seems noisy.
And alcohol in Utah, I think, is always in quotes, right?
Right. Well, it's that thing where you have to like join the club.
Yeah, but isn't the beer like the 3-2, like the?
Oh yeah, there's that.
You can't get an IPA and SLC.
Yeah, but you know it's not so bad in Park City because then you're up in the air anyway, so it kind of evens out.
It's true.
Right, it's a wash. He says it's hopefully staying in business after all of this is over. Here's a kind of close up of the marquee. It says closed, stay safe, and see you soon. And then our last picture for the day, this was sent in by actually both Jeff Swanson and Beth Barber Doty, who I believe probably both live in Minneapolis, because we get pictures from the Parkway from both of them. So this is a picture from their Instagram, the Parkway's Instagram. It says, "Surprised, Eddie? If I woke up tomorrow with my head sewn to the carpet, I wouldn't be more surprised than I am now." Clark Griswold, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
And what does the marquee say, Matt?
It says National Lampoon's Christmas Vaccination. Yeah, and so Swanson writes, Jeff Hughes, probably one of the best John Hughes quotes in their Instagram. And while we probably won't celebrate Christmas together, the film will never grow old. They're not playing it, obviously, but certainly channeling its spirit. So that's it for Marquees this week.
I feel like I've been to the Parkway Theater at this point. I feel like I've
yeah, like we've been lined up for weeks waiting for Star Wars to open or something. All right, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for sending in those marquees. Keep them coming. You can send them to us at any of our social media accounts at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. In the meantime, like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We've got extra stuff for our subscribers, including TV recaps. Right now we're talking about The Mandalorian and The Queen's Gambit, and we have a runoff for our December off the menu selection. It was a tie between the original Black Christmas and the comedy It Happened on Fifth Avenue. So if you are the level of member that gets to vote, go do it. We're going to decide which of those movies is going to be our extra classic film for December. Anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time. Bye.